Hey guys, welcome back to the 24/7 Howard State Network. It's your week 10 Buckeyes and all of college football recap. I'm Howard, your host, and I just want to welcome you back here. Thanks for hanging out. And just a note before we get started, be sure to join us during the week for the latest Ohio State news, updates, and previews for the upcoming game. Remember to comment, subscribe, and all of that. It's your week's post-game recap where we talk about what happened and react to all the reactions and overreactions, as yes, you know, Buckeyes fans are, and well, most teams fans, but certainly OSU fans are known to overreact. Certainly not you, I'm sure of it. You know, if you're watching or listening to this pod, I just assume as much that you probably watched the game. This is probably not the first time you're catching up on the results, so I don't really like to spend a lot of time recapping the game itself, but let's do a minor recap. Saturday, the Bucks went into Rutgers territory, and honestly, it was another up and down game for Kyle. Won that in a second, but he was 19 of 26 for 189, 3 TDs, and 1 very bad interception. Trey. Something else. Henderson, for the first time in his career, put up his 3rd consecutive 100-yard rushing game. He accounted for more than 200 total yards, that being the 2nd time in as many weeks. So for him, 100 and change rushing, 80 receiving. Just a difference maker out there. Marv finished the day with 2 touchdowns, but otherwise, honestly, not a banner day for the Heisman candidate, which saw the break of a long streak of 100-yard receiving games for him, as he otherwise accounted for just 25 yards. Mecca was indeed back in the lineup, but didn't look all that great. He's more than likely being eased back, which is probably smart, you know, considering last year where Jackson seemed to rush back from injury, and it probably cost him the rest of the season. Other contributors were Carnell Tate, who had a couple of big catches down the stretch that aided in drives that helped to put this game out of reach for Rutgers. He seems to be continuing his steady ascension. And G. Scott Jr. got into the action with a couple of catches and a very nice grab on dime from Kyle in the end zone. His first receiving touchdown of the year and just 2nd of his career, which is now in the 3rd year with the Buckeyes. Okay, so notable injuries were Cade Stover, who did not play. I believe he did the little warm-up fake out where he went through warm-ups, then they take his helmet. Just really very dumb. I mean, just don't get me started on how injuries are handled. So let's move to the defensive side of the ball. The Silver Bullet defense was mostly out in force again on Saturday, although that secondary seems to be one by one dropping like flies. Both starting cornerback Denzel Burke and starting safety Latham Ransom were out to start the game. Burke, as you'll remember, missed the Penn State game, came back for Wisconsin, and then was out again this week. Ransom went down at Wisconsin, not sure of his return timeline, and the newest member of the secondary injury club is Josh Proctor, who looked okay and was smiling on the sidelines after having his helmet taken from him, but I get that he wants to be a big hitter back there, but launching yourself towards another defenseless player, pulling up at the last second, and then getting hurt. A concussion likely is just not a good look for the 6-year player. A couple reporters got a hold of Pryor after the game, and he said that he's fine. So expect him back or not. You know, you just never know with these things, but be hopeful for him. So we're currently down 3 starters just in the secondary, and we're for most of the game. And then another perhaps worrying scene was starting Mike linebacker Tommy Eichenberg was seen jogging into the locker rooms with a trainer sometime in the 4th quarter. No word on him as of yet. But if there's one I worry about the least, it's Tommy. That guy would probably run out there with a wooden leg if he had to. I remember last year he had 2 clubs for hands against Michigan. I mean, just wow. All right. So, but like I said, even with the injuries, the Silver Bullets seem to be mostly intact, giving up just 16 points. And I mean, look, the offense, how it's playing, has just repeatedly put this defense in terrible spots. And they repeatedly answer the bell for the most part. And not just the offense, but we have to talk about what the hell's going on with the special teams. Because look, they have been especially special this year, if you know what I mean, but not like they're supposed to be. Parker Fleming is a waste of money, a waste of a coaching space. When you have guys like Lauren Knights, who could be a real asset in one of these coaching slots sidelined for a Yahoo like Parker Fleming, and the special teams continue to underwhelm. It's just mind-boggling to me how this guy not only got an extension, but a damn raise in the offseason. Hey, maybe just maybe it was Parker, who was the OSU staffer who was behind uncovering the cheaters up north little scheme. That's really the only thing I can think of. Buck, that was a joke, by the way. Michigan fans are just desperate to deflect blame. They're saying that they have proof that OSU is behind the information given to the NCAA that broke this whole thing wide open. Anyway, whatever. But like I was saying, the defense continually put in these terrible spots. 9 points of the 16 given up on Saturday were on short fields after turnovers, one of them being the dumbest attempt at a fake punt that you'll ever see. But this Buckeyes defense still hasn't given up more than 17 points this entire year, which would have been unthinkable just a year ago, and especially with 3 key starters out in that secondary. And I actually have to make a small correction because earlier this week, I said that if another one of the safeties goes down, we'd be in real trouble, as that would put Cam Martinez assumedly back in the lineup. Well, I was wrong. Apparently, they're done with the Cam Martinez experiment, and they preferred on Saturday to play true freshman Malik Hartford instead. Which, I mean, Brad fucking now. Seriously. Excuse my French, but all too often in the past, we've been so hesitant to go with young, talented guys and would rather go for the less talented but more experienced player who does nothing but give up big play after big play. If someone is going to give up the big play, we might as well be getting reps to up-and-comers rather than the never-has-beens. Speaking of big plays, Jordan Hancock continues to be an imposing force against both the run and the pass. Number 7 is playing himself into a hell of a draft pick. He took a 90-yard pick six to the house on Saturday, right when Rutgers was threatening to go up by 2 scores. This completely changed the complexion of the game. Instead, the Buckeyes went up 14-9. Then the defense stopped Rutgers again on the next drive, at which point the offense scored a touchdown and Rutgers never truly threatened again for the remainder of the game. All right, that'll do it for the recap. The Buckeyes pull out the win in Piscataway 35-16, which I will note is more points than those cheating bastards up north could muster at home. So eat it.
Beautiful. That's the biggest, best, most beautiful recap, you know, really anyone has ever saw before. Really so.
Well, that's just so wow. So nice of you, Ted. Well, let's get to, should we get to some reactions and overreactions?
Go ahead and grab her by the overreaction.
All right. Reaction and overreaction time. First reaction is Kyle McCord is not where we need him to be. You may not have figured it. But Kyle McCord actually set an Ohio State quarterback record on Saturday. This from 11 Warriors by completing his 11 first consecutive passes of Saturday's game against Rutgers. Kyle McCord set an Ohio State record for the most consecutive pass completions in school history. After completing all 7 of his passing attempts in the second half, not including a pair of intentional grounding penalties, which do not count as official pass attempts of Ohio State's 24-10 win over Wisconsin. McCord completed his first 11 consecutive attempts of Saturday's game against Rutgers for 18 straight completions, breaking the previous record of 17 consecutive completions by C.J. Stroud in Ohio State's 2021 win over Michigan State. It goes on to finish prior to Stroud's 17 consecutive completions against the Spartans. J.T. Barrett and Justin Fields held the school record with 16 consecutive completions, each by Barrett in 2017 and Fields in 2020. So that's all great and all, but fans are poo-pooing even on this because wouldn't you guess it, Kyle couldn't even do this well enough to impress some fans. You know, I don't necessarily share this opinion, but this comment did make me giggle and cuts to the crux of the issue. It reads 11 passes for 14 yards probably. And that's a continued knock on Kyle. Just one of many. Check down Charlie and so forth. And you know, it gets kind of hard to defend and argue the point when you do read the part I left out of that 11 Warriors article, which goes on to say this. McCord's 11 straight completions to start the game against Rutgers went for 64 total yards, highlighted by a 14-yard touchdown pass to Guy Scott Jr. His 7 straight completions to end the game against Wisconsin went for 86 total yards, highlighted by a 19-yard touchdown pass to Marvin Harrison Jr. So not quite 14 yards, but yes, 64 yards on 11 passes is not that impressive at first blush. I mean, it just isn't. So yeah, that's like less than 6-yard average.
That's a teeny average.
Indeed, Ted, indeed. I mean, I was straight dogging on Drew Aller for his 5-yard per pass average performances coming into the Ohio State game. So, look, I've been a Kyle defender, but the only thing I can offer here is a bit of context, and that is all day long, Rutgers sat in that 2 deep safeties looking dare at Ohio State to try and throw it deep. And they have good corners over there at Rutgers, one of them Melton and the other one Longer Beam. They're actually pretty dang good coverage corners. So Kyle took what they gave him, and one of the times just before the half there that he tried to break out of that pattern, he threw a pick. So look, I don't want to get into a long discussion about Kyle here. I really don't. For me, I'm just really in wait and see mode. It's wait and see mode. That's it. Is Kyle capable? Yes. The answer is an emphatic yes. The people who say otherwise, who say stuff like he has a weak arm or he is incapable of seeing underneath defenders just because he threw a couple picks, are just silly. I'm just so tired of it. But at the same time, I'm tired of having to defend Kyle because he's taking too long for my liking to take that next step. Some people say he hasn't taken a step at all, that he's still the same QB that trotted out there against IU. That's not true. But what is true is that Kyle is who he is, and he is not CJ Stroud. And most people don't expect him to be CJ Stroud. I get it. I really do. They think that a guy, and I can't say that I disagree to a point, that a guy who is 3 years into the program should be further along. And I do too. I do. But then I remember this is a guy who couldn't beat out CJ Stroud for the job. CJ came in class of 2020 and McCord class of 2021. And he had his chance. I truly believe, if you'll remember, in the 2021 season, CJ was playing so poorly that he was effectively benched for a week under the guise of a shoulder injury. Kyle came in, started the game against Tulsa in, what was it, week 4 or maybe 5? And he came in there and he looked Imagine for a second this scenario. Kyle comes in, his accuracy off the charts. He's got a little wiggle to him, as much wiggle as you can have as a Rust Belt QB. And just imagine he lights Tulsa up. Would he have gotten another chance? He certainly would have. And what if he was, again, very good in those spots? He could have overtaken CJ. He could have. CJ in 2021 was never so far ahead of Kyle that he was inevitable. He just wasn't. But that's not what happened. Not even close. So that right there told me what I could expect out of Kyle if he were ever to take over the reins as QB1. Not that he couldn't or wouldn't improve, but that was his baseline. Then people say, yeah, but this is his 3rd year in the system and blah, blah, blah. And what? Backup quarterbacks in the day era at OSU get shit all for meaningful game reps. They get in the game in the waning minutes of the 4th if they're lucky. I get a couple throws to 2nd and 3rd string receivers, and then they go into victory formation. I could probably count on one hand the number of times that Kyle played more than 5 minutes in a game in the last 3 years. So there we go. Reaction, Kyle isn't where we need or want him to be. Overreaction, Kyle sucks. He's always going to suck, and all he can do is throw 5-yard passes and blah, blah, blah. Look, it's a bit more nuanced than that. I've seen with my own 2 eyes Kyle throwing deep bombs that hit receivers in stride when the defense gives it up. Saturday, Rutgers played such that they were determined not to give that stuff up. Too much trays, 65-yard catch and run. You'll see exactly what Rutgers was doing all game. All their defenders got ran off. Trey sits down in the middle in what looked like a designed play to Trey, by the way. Not a check down, but look, here's another issue. And it's that we're in the 4th quarter before play calling day. Really does anything smart with the most electric pass catcher out of the backfield to make Rutgers pay. Why? Just why?
Why?
Shut your mouth, Lenny.
Grab them by the check down. They let you do it.
You too, Ted. So listen, guys, I want Kyle to be our JJ McCarthy just as much as the next guy. Yeah, but I think we need, at least in the first year, to be realistic about our expectations and just hope and change. Hope and change, baby. All right, fine people. That was this week's post-game reaction and overreaction. Let's move on. And now let's talk a little bit about what happened nationally and the narratives coming out of week 10 of this nearly already over college football season. So the things that affect us, Let's start with possibly the biggest thing from Saturday is Notre Dame's loss to the Fighting Dabos.
Jesus grabbed the wheel.
I just, as we've come to expect from Notre Dame, they drop another one against a nobody opponent. And yes, Clemson is a nobody opponent. Don't get it twisted. This is the same team who just this past week found its head coaching screaming at a call-in show caller for not having enough gratitude for the 4-4 season old Dabo has graced upon the Clemson faithful this season.
So I'm curious, why are we paying you $11.5 million to go 4-4? And it's not just this year. It's been, just the refusal to accept.
All right. What's this guy's name?
Tyler.
Hey, Tyler. I've listened to enough of you, Tyler. Listen, you can have all your opinions that you want. All right. I don't know how old you are. Don't really care. All right. But let me tell you something. We won 11 games last year, and you're part of the problem, to be honest with you, because that is part of the problem. It's people like you that all you do is the appreciation. The expectation is greater than the appreciation, and that's the problem. And so, we've won 12 10-plus win seasons in a row. That's happened 3 times in 150 years. So if you want to know why, Clemson ain't sniffed a national championship for 35 years. We've won 2 in 7 years. And there's only 2 other teams that can say that, Georgia and Alabama. Okay? Is this a bad year? Yeah. And it's my responsibility. Take 100% responsibility for it. But all this bull crap you're thinking, all these narratives you read, listen, man, you can have your opinion all you want, and you can apply for the job. And good luck to you.
If you haven't seen it, this is about 6 minutes of pure gold that you must inject straight into the main line. It's just so funny, and I guess it's one of those things where you have to be from there to understand. But the guy, the call-in caller, sets up the whole thing by talking about how much he respects that Dabo is a man of faith. Like, I'm not sure what or how that makes a difference. But yeah, no, things are a bit different down there in low country. Anyway, Notre Dame, as Lou would say, can't get it done. Losers 31-24, so expect NDD to drop probably all the way out of the top 25 with a third loss, which doesn't do our resume any favors. But on the other hand, Penn State absolutely destroyed Maryland and looked damn good doing it. So that might help to counter some of that, but it's hard telling what those idiots on the committee will do. Wisconsin lost as well, which also does not help. Between Maryland and Wisconsin, our third best win even is looking awfully shaky. What else? Alabama absolutely skull dragged LSU to a 42-28 victory at home. That game, man, my God, it was such an eyesore. Both of their defenses are just not very good in all reality, especially LSU's, but also Bama's leaves a lot to be desired. So what happens the entire game is just players streaking wide open down the field, nobody within 10 yards of them. And then you've got the commentators blowing their lids over the big plays, just literally screaming at the top of their lungs with the pure, unadulterated ecstasy of watching SEC football, I guess.
The biggest, most beautiful conference you've ever seen, They've got grass.
Right. Thanks. So Georgia doesn't impress. They too were losing to a mediocre team at half. It's so funny because you could just feel the whole country waiting for UGA to dominate Missouri so that they could retake their rightful place as number 1. Woo. And of course, with Ohio State, quote, struggling these people, mostly the national media bobbleheads really wanted Georgia to show everybody and their mother that Georgia, not Ohio State, is the rightful number 1. Because, we can't be having OSU as number 1 for longer than 1 week now, can we? So, especially with how bad they suck. But whoops, that didn't happen. So Georgia literally has no legitimate claim to jump OSU in the rankings this week. They scrape past Mizzou 30-21. Not even the eye test. So you love to see it. You love to see it. Wills. Oh, yes. The cheaters up north beat down a hapless, just completely injury-ridden Purdue team. Purdue was basically playing their entire second team defense. So 41-13 win for the Skunks, which I will point out is a smaller margin of victory over a worse version of Purdue than Ohio State faced. Not that it matters, but still. And finally, the team that looked the most impressive was again this week, Oregon. Holy smokes. I'm telling you right now. Listen to me. Oregon is for real, for real. They dismantled. Yes. 3-6 Cal team, but nonetheless, they took them to the proverbial woodshed and put 63 points on the losers. 63-19 is the final. It's 2 weeks in a row that Oregon has looked like a Death Star after that embarrassingly stupid loss to Washington. I mean, come on, Dan Lanning has to be kicking himself right now. The Ducks could and probably should be sitting 9-0 in the top 3, maybe even number 1. But no. He went for it on 4th down and c'est la vie.
Sad.
Indeed, Ted. All right, that is your Week 10 college football wrap-up, and that will just about do it for myself, your dedicated lover of Buckeye football, of course. And all that is the delightful world of college football. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to highlight that this is a viewer engagement-driven show. We value your thoughts and insights, so feel free to share your opinions about the game or any Buckeye-related topic in the comments. We might even discuss your interesting takes in upcoming episodes. What do you think? Do you think Kyle McCord is capable of leading us to the promised land, or is he a lost cause? Share your thoughts in the comments, and we'll definitely explore your perspectives later this week. And do remember to stay tuned during the week for the latest Ohio State news, updates, and previews for the upcoming game at Michigan State. We'll also be talking a little Michigan and Penn State. Don't forget to engage with us on social media, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube and rate wherever you listen to your podcasts. Your support means the world to us. That's all for today. And we appreciate you hanging out with us. We'll catch you next time on the 24/7 Howard State Network. We're the world's first mostly AI-driven sportscast dedicated to Buckeyes football, with a small team of extremely dedicated humans behind me that you should support. Remember, I may not be real, but your mother is.
Mm-hmm.
And you should give her a call. That's it for now. Until then, remember, it's Howard.